Let's be honest, getting ready for an SFDA audit can feel like cramming for a huge exam you absolutely cannot fail. But what if you had the answer key ahead of time? Well, that's exactly what we're doing today. We're going to walk through a step-by-step guide to navigating the Saudi Food and Drug Authority's quality management system inspection for medical devices. So let's turn that audit stress into audit success.
So you get the email. An SFDA inspector is coming to visit. Your stomach probably does a little flip, right? But here's the thing. It's also a massive opportunity. It's not just about knowing the regulations. It's about having a solid game plan. So, are you really ready for what's coming? Let's make sure your answer to that is a very confident yes. Okay, before we dive into the nitty-gritty of how you prepare, we need to get a really good grip on the why and the who. So let's start with the absolute fundamentals, the legal ground rules that give these inspections their teeth and define just who needs a quality management system, or QMS. This is the bedrock everything else is built on. Now, who exactly is on the hook for this? Well, and this is really important, it's not just manufacturers. The SFDA's rules, which are all laid out in MDS-REQ 10, apply across the board. If you're an authorized representative, an importer, or even a distributor, yep, you're in the club. You've got to be just as ready. Nobody gets a pass here. And here it is in black and white. This isn't some friendly suggestion or a best practice guide. It's the law. Article 33 of the Medical Devices Law flat out gives the SFDA the power and the duty to show up and inspect. So the bottom line is pretty simple. Compliance isn't optional, it's a legal must-do. Okay, so we've got the legal stuff down. Now let's get practical. Knowing the rules is one thing, being ready for game day is something else entirely. We're moving into the tangible stuff now. Getting your all-star team together and making sure your document toolkit is locked and loaded. These are, without a doubt, the two pillars of a smooth inspection. The SFDA is super specific about two roles you have to have, the quality manager and the technical manager. The easiest way to think about it is like this. Your quality manager is the guardian of the system. They build the QMS, they handle corrective actions, they're your main point of contact. The technical manager, on the other hand, is the guardian of the device itself. They oversee the design, the testing, all the technical stuff. You need both, and they need to be experts in their roles. No ifs, ands, or buts. And here's the toolkit the team needs. Just picture it. The inspector asks to see your quality manual, or your SOPs, or maybe reports from your last audit, which, by the way, proves that you actually learn and improve. Of course, they'll want the technical files for your devices too. Having all of this organized and ready to hand over in a second, that just screams competence and control. All right, all the prep work is done. Your team is briefed, your documents are in perfect order. Now it's time for the main event. Let's walk through the inspection day itself with a really clear step-by-step playbook so there are absolutely no surprises. The whole day really breaks down into four main acts. It kicks off with pre-visit communication, just sorting out logistics and the scope of the visit. Then you have the opening meeting, which really sets the tone for the whole day. Act 3 is the inspection itself, the real deep dive, and it all wraps up with the closing meeting, where you get your first glimpse of the findings. Every single one of these steps is a chance for you to shine. You know, the SFDA's guidance on this couldn't be clearer. Immediately upon request. Think about it. If you're scrambling to find a document, what does that look like? It's a huge red flag. It suggests you're disorganized, or even worse, that you might be trying to hide something. Being prepared means having everything right there, ready to go. No hesitation. So, the inspector has packed their bags and left the building. You can breathe a sigh of relief, but your work isn't done, not by a long shot. In a lot of ways, the most critical part is just getting started. Let's talk about what happens after the visit and the journey to a solid corrective and preventative action plan, what we all know in the industry as CAPA. The SFDA's definition here is really precise, and listen to this wording because it's key. It's about addressing the reason for the problem. See, that's a huge distinction. They don't want you to just put a Band-Aid on a symptom. They want you to do the hard work, find the root cause of why it happened, and fix that. Anyone can patch a problem. A world-class QMS fixes the system that allowed the problem to happen. And if you're wondering why this is such a big deal, just look at the global picture. Industry data shows that problems with the CAPA system show up in somewhere between 40 and 48% of all FDA 483 observations in the United States. That's huge. It means that CAPA is the #1 area where even the most experienced companies trip up, which is exactly why the SFDA is so laser-focused on it. Your timeline after the inspection is absolutely critical. If there are findings, you'll have to submit a corrective plan. But, and this is a big but, it's not a one-and-done fix. The SFDA expects you to keep detailed records of everything you do and have a system for reporting adverse events running at all times. This is about building a culture of being constantly vigilant and always improving. So, how can we be even smarter about all this? Well, we can learn from the people who've already been through it. Let's dig into the SFDA's own data on the most common things inspectors find. Think of this as the ultimate cheat sheet for your prep. So, what are the biggest banana peels on the floor? Looking at the 2023 data for overseas manufacturers, the number one issue, and it's not even close, is control of non-conforming product. You know why? It almost always boils down to a process failure. A bad part is found, but it isn't properly segregated, or the paperwork is a mess, to an inspector that screams a lack of control. After that, you see analysis of data and improvement, which tells you they want proof you're not just collecting data for fun, but actually using it to get better. The big takeaway here is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Don't try to boil the ocean and prepare for everything equally. Use this data like a map. It points you directly to the areas you need to beef up in your QMS. You now know exactly what inspectors are trained to look for, so you can get way ahead of the game. And that really brings us to the final and maybe most important question you can ask yourself. Yes, passing the audit is the goal, but should it be the only goal? Is your quality management system just a thick binder sitting on a shelf, gathering dust until an inspector shows up? Or is it a living, breathing system that actually fuels real, continuous improvement for your products and your entire company? That's something to think about.